Hi guys, this is Miss Temes. This is the video for enrichment for week 2 of Honors Algebra 1. There are two things I'm going to cover. Well, this video I'm going to do zero product property, which you have in the first part of your worksheet, and then the second video I'm doing completing the square, which is the second part of your worksheet. So zero product property. This is something we use to solve. So we've been factoring, now we're going to solve zero product. Product means multiplication. So if you multiply two things and you get 0, that means either the first thing is 0 or the second thing is 0. Because a times 0 is 0. 0 times anything. 0 times b is 0. 0 times anything is 0. And we use this to solve quadratics in factored form. So the first one, we show here CD equals 0. So when you multiply two things, either C is 0, because it multiplies by D, you get 0, or D is 0. Now, number 3, we have two things. We have this binomial and we have D. The D is easy because it's just a variable by itself. But the thing in the parentheses, C minus 5, if we need that to equal 0, we have to set it equal to. And then think about what number minus 5 is 0. You take the opposite of this one. So you get C equals 5, because 5 minus 5 is 0. So you have two answers, 0 and 5. Now I'm going to show you why it works only when it makes it life easier when it's equal to 0. This one's equal to 2. Now 2 is prime, thankfully, so it has only two factors. But they're different variations of that factor. I could have 2 times 1. 1 times 2, negative 2 times negative 1, negative 1 times negative 2. So I could have any of these factors to represent this first parenthesis and the D. So I'm just going to do 2 times 1. So first we're going to do this C minus 5 equals 2. And so what minus 5 is 2? C is 7. And then D is just by itself, so D equals 1. So that would work as one of the factors, and then you could do all the other ones. But when it's just 0, it's super easy because I just have two things. Now, if this equals 0 or this equals 0, it works out. So C minus 5 equals 0. What minus 5 is 0? 5, positive 5. And then D plus 3 equals 0. What plus 3 is 0? D equals negative 3. So when it's equal to 0, it makes it really easy to solve, and I know I'm solving because of the equal sign. So I have two expressions on the left and a 0 on the right, and I'm solving for what the variables are. Usually for quadratics, these two, C and D, would be the same variable, but here they're showing you different ones. Okay, so here are some to solve. Here we have a quadratic with a negative 5 on the right side. Remember, you want to have 0 on the right, 0 on one side. 0 on one side of the equation. One side of the equals. Okay, so this is a negative 5. You just can't ignore it, get rid of it. What you have to do is add 5, so you get 0 and add 5 here. So you get this quadratic, x squared minus 11x plus 24. Now, since a is 1, b is negative 11, and c is 24, you could factor this. Just because a is 1, you could factor it with an x factor, and you don't have to do the grouping thing. Just because a is 1. So what multiplies to negative 11 and adds to 24? No, the other way around. Oh my gosh, sorry. What multiplies to 24 and adds to negative 11? So 11 factors are, it's a negative and a negative, because those add to negative 11 and they multiply to a positive. And factors of 11 is, or to add to 11 is 8 and 3. 11 is actually prime, but 8 plus 3 is 11. 8 times 3 is 24. So since I did it that way and a is 1, I could jump right to x minus 8, what I call double bubbles, and x minus 3. and set those equal to 0. You can't stop there with the factoring because we have to solve it because it has an equal sign. So what minus 8 is 0? X equals 8. You don't have to set it equal to 0 every time. You could probably just tell by looking at this, but sometimes it has a fraction or something and you have to set it to equal to 0. X equals positive 3 because 3 minus 3 is 0. But you could do the x minus 8 equals 0. Solve. X minus 3 equals 0. That's a 3. Solve. But these are your two answers. So you get two answers because it's a quadratic. You don't always get two answers. I don't know what's going on. You don't always get two answers, but you get two answers for this one. Okay? You may get one answer, you may get no answer, or two answers. So here's another one, number 6. First thing to do with quadratics is what's the GCF? Well, both of this have an x, so this makes it super easy. I get 7x plus 1 equals 0. So whenever you just have the variable outside, it's kind of like that first page, x equals 0. You don't have to, you just set it equal to 0 and you're done. Now the second one, this is one that I said it's a little difficult to figure out what the answer is. So you have to set it to 0, but I'll show you a trick after I do it this way. So you subtract 1. So I get 0 minus 1, and then you divide by 7. So x equals negative 1/7. So that's one of your answers. Forget it. I'm not going to circle things. That's one of your answers. That's one of your answers. Easy way to do it, and I'm going to change my pen to blue to show you this. You take the opposite sign, so you do a negative. This number on the right is always going to be your numerator. This number with the x is always going to be the denominator. And it even works with these up here. So say this one right here factored. This, you take the opposite sign, so it's going to be a plus. This number is going to be your numerator, 3. And the number with the x is what you usually divide by. This has a 1, so you have a 3 over 1, which is 3. But it doesn't really make as much sense unless you have a fraction like this. Okay, let me do the last two. So something wrong with this. Right off the bat, we want 0 on one side. So this is going to be 7r squared minus 14r plus 7. It's going to go to the other side and going to be a plus and going to be equals 0 on the right. First step, GCF. Right off the bat, I could tell there's 7. So r squared. 14 divided by 7 is 2. 7 divided by 7 is 1. Now, I got my a, which is with the r squared. A is 1. B is negative 2. And C is 1. Since A is 1, I can x factor. What multiplies to 1, but adds to a negative 2? Well, they're both negative, and the only factors of 1 are 1 on 1. So you have to put your 7 back in your answer, but it's r minus 1 times r minus 1. Now, for completing the square, you could write that abbreviated like this, 7r minus 1. Since it's multiplied by itself, you could do r minus 1 squared. The next one, GCF, nothing goes into 2, 5, and 12. So this has A is 2. So we're going to have to do the grouping thing on this. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. B is 5. And C is negative 12. So the first step for this is multiply A times C. And then you put B on the bottom. So 2 times negative 12 is negative 24. And oops, I clicked. Sorry, didn't mean to click. Let's go back to pen. And then the bottom is just your b value, which is 5. Oh man, nothing multiplies to 24 and adds to 5. 5 is just 5 and 1. So this one we cannot solve. We will learn ways to solve that later, but we can't solve that right now. Okay. Oops, this one I just factored. I didn't solve. Number 7. So what makes this bubble? So R equals, what opposite of -1 is just 1. That's your answer. Okay. The top ones, I think I did solve. Yep, I solved those. The bottom one I just hadn't solved and can't solve number 8. All right, that's zero product property. Let me know if you have any questions. You just factor it and set each factor to 0. Thanks. Bye.